I know we have a little bit less time now because we had a bit of an extended break, but thank you all for joining us. We're so happy to have you. The title of this session is, as you can see, Opportunity Pathways for Youth and by Youth. My name is Zeina Shuhaibar. I'm the GOYN Deputy Director. I'm based in Washington, D.C. This is my first convening. I joined the GOYN team in July. Best convening ever, so thank you all. We are gonna have a really great panel discussion today, and I'm joined by an incredible panel. Before we start, I know we're putting the tech team, the interpretation team through their paces, so I wanna say a huge thank you to our tech friends. We can see you in the room. Thank you to the interpreters. We can't see you, but we know that you're there. And before we actually start the panel, but I'll ask the panelists to come join. Before we turn to the actual discussion, we're just going to set a little bit of context. So I can control from here to whoever changed the slide. Thanks. We are here to talk about opportunity pathways. Why? You might have noticed in the theme of this year's convening, the word pathways appears. Pathways to full potential. So what we really thought we'd do is focus a little bit on thinking about what we mean by pathways and illustrate them in several examples from some of our communities. So before we get started with the examples, I'm going to do a little bit of 101, a basic course in pathway theory. It won't be boring and it won't be long. First, a little bit of boring, some definitions, just so that we're all on the same page. When we say opportunity pathways, what we mean here is sets of interventions that connect young people to all sorts of different opportunities. What do we mean by interventions? We mean individual activities that are designed and implemented by GOYN or its collaborative partners. So I hope you see the difference between pathways and interventions. One intervention, one activity by itself is not a pathway, but different pathways grouped together intentionally and designed in a way to work together can lead and make up a pathway. One more term that you're gonna hear a lot in this discussion is systems change. And what we mean by systems change when we say this, and you've heard it throughout the week so far, we mean changes in structures, policies, practices, narratives, and mindsets that shape the entire ecosystem. And really what we want in pathways work is for pathways to lead to systems change. So we'll talk a lot in our examples of how we're hoping not only that opportunity pathways support individual youth and their journeys, but how together these lead to changes in the system that impact the lives of opportunity youth. So now that we're comfortable with the terms, just to highlight that there are several different types of pathways. Here are some examples: employment pathways, entrepreneurship pathways, pathways that help youth return to formal education, and pathways to increase youth leadership. Together, these pathways can combine to lead to the outcomes that GOYN is hoping to achieve. So hopefully these look familiar to our GOYN friends in the room. These are the GOYN global desired outcomes. So increasing youth employment, I can't see the words, youth agency, thank you, ecosystem collaboration, and ultimately to build more inclusive labor markets. Okay. Here are some examples of how different types of activities can be grouped together to make up a pathway. So you'll see here from these examples that they're all different types of activities. There's skilling courses, there's mentorship programs, these direct engagements with young people, but there are also activities around employer engagement and narrative change campaigns and communities of practice that can be for employers, for private sector, for different organizations in our ecosystem collaboratives. All of these can group together to make up different pathways. And for the really visual learners out there, of which I am one, here's an example. I know we have some Bogota friends in the room. Thank you for leading the way. Here's an example of the Bogota digital sector pathway. As you can see here, there's several different activities that group together to lead to different outcomes and changes, all within this one pathway. So when we say pathways, this is what we mean. We mean grouping and intentionally designing interventions to group together to lead to various changes. So what we'll focus today in the discussion, and I'll invite my panelists to come up, we're going to talk about the different, show different examples of where different communities are along this trajectory in designing and implementing pathways. So if I could ask, please, Melany, Christy, Shivansh to join me. And we have one more panelist on screen. So while they're coming up, why don't I go through a few introductions for our amazing panel. And maybe I'll get out of the way for you. Thank you. Okay, so our first panelist, and sit however you like. In the middle here, we have Melany Nayib, Mejia, Villalobos. She's a youth counselor from Barranquilla. She began her leadership 4 years ago, carrying out various youth engagement activities in her community. One of her initiatives is a youth leadership school targeting young victims of the armed conflict in Colombia. As an opportunity youth, Melany has been a member of the GOYN Barranquilla Youth Advisory Group for a year and a half and currently coordinates the entrepreneurship program for young people called Emprende. I hope I pronounced that okay, where she is connected and deeply understands the different barriers that young people face in the city. So please welcome Melany. Next to Melany and next to me here is Christy P. Cardenas, I'm sorry. I just asked how to pronounce their names and I've already forgotten. Christy is a program officer at the Conrad and Hilton Foundation, driving initiatives to advance economic well-being for opportunity youth. With over 15 years of cross-sector experience, she has supported systems change in public health, early child care and education, and workforce development. Christy holds degrees in community development and a dual master's in public administration and educational psychology. She's passionate about bringing people together to spark collective action, to build cultures and practices of justice, belonging, and dignity. Christy enjoys mentoring young women and is inspired daily by her husband and her 3 children. Please join me in welcoming Christy. And finally, in the room, we have Shivansh Vikram. Shivansh is a proactive member of the Youth Advisory Group with GOYN Ramgarh. Deeply dedicated to the empowerment and development of rural youth, Shivansh leverages his extensive experience with TRI to lead initiatives that address key needs, including career guidance and counseling. Through strategic collaborations with high schools and government centers, he helps shape programs that inspire and uplift young people. With strong skills in communication, documentation, and presentation, he combines his academic background, which is a graduate degree from Ranchi University and an LLB from Radha Govind University, and his pursuit of a master's in social work to bring impactful solutions to Ramgarh's youth. Please join me in welcoming Shivansh. And last but certainly not least, we also have a panelist on Zoom. Unfortunately, she could not join us in person, but she's with us in spirit and in our hearts. Phindile Vilakazi is the lead for GOYN in eThekwini, South Africa. We can't see Phindi. There she is. Now we can see you on the screen. Phindi is committed to driving collaborative systems change in eThekwini by engaging key leaders and fostering partnerships with local governments. Phindi leads the Make Your Own Money initiative, supporting organizations to create income-generating opportunities for youth and ensuring alignment with project goals. She also manages a capacity-building cohort, promoting data-driven decision-making and overseeing all GOYN activities to drive impactful, sustainable change. Please join me in welcoming Phindi. Thank you all so much. Okay, thank you. So now let's get started with the real fun part of the session, and I'm going to move over here so I can also see you, Phindile. I'm going to ask the panelists to share a little bit about the context in each of the places where they're working, and I'll start with you, Melany. If you'd like, you can also come up to the podium, or you can stay there. Let me grab the clicker, so I'll move through the slides. So Melany, if you could please give us a story. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. Melany, if you could let us learn a little bit about the Barranquilla context and where you have been. If you could let us know how GOYN Barranquilla has been designing the employment and, okay. If you could please let us know, I'm a little nervous. If you could talk us through GOYN Barranquilla's early stages in designing the youth pathways. And sorry. Okay. Sorry. This has never happened to me before. Okay. Yes. Sorry, Melany. We've heard in your intro that you've been involved with the YAG and for over a year and a half now. I'd love to hear your perspective of how youth have been involved in the design of pathways and help the audience to understand what these contributions have done for the design pathways. What would not have happened had youth not been involved in the design? So I'm very sorry for that muddled intro, but please, Melany, let us move to your slides.
Bueno, hola, buenos días. Mi nombre es Melany Mejia. Soy de la comunidad de Barranquilla. Bueno, ya me conocen porque ya me vieron bailar. Soy una joven con potencial y desde que inicié o desde que estoy en GOYN Barranquilla, mi proceso pues ha sido de mucho crecimiento. Yo cuando inicié en el grupo asesor, pues muy poco hablaba, muy poco participaba y pues el día de hoy estoy aquí delante de todos ustedes. Soy como el ejemplo clave de que es de ser una joven potenciada porque ahora tengo la oportunidad de trabajar directamente con GOYN, siendo la coordinadora del programa de emprendimiento Emprende Así. Okay.
If you want to stand here, you can, so you can see the slides.
Okay.
You can come stand here if you want to see the slides.
Oh.
We're all doing it, folks. Thank you for bearing with us.
Bueno, Emprende Así es un piloto que le apunta a la construcción de las trayectorias, brindando formación en emprendimiento a jóvenes con potencial de la ciudad para que su negocio o su idea de negocio le sea sostenible con el tiempo. Desde GOYN Barranquilla adaptamos una metodología que ya existía de uno de nuestros aliados, que es la Cámara de Comercio y el SENA. Tomamos eso que ya ellos tenían, pero nosotros lo adaptamos a las necesidades y a la voz de los jóvenes. Era algo que ya existía en la ciudad, formación en emprendimiento, pero no había una dedicada a jóvenes y Emprende Así es el primero. Hicimos esto primero con una consulta con jóvenes, los escuchamos, identificamos cuáles eran sus necesidades, nos dimos cuenta que había una necesidad de formación en emprendimiento y además de esto ellos nos los hicieron saber. Luego en el momento de la ejecución y el desarrollo del programa, GOYN Barranquilla involucró a una joven del YAC, siendo yo en este caso, para coordinar el programa. Fue uno de los pasos para empezar a involucrar más jóvenes, después de haber realizado la consulta con ellos. Luego, mientras se desarrollaba el programa, yo siendo la coordinadora, identifiqué las barreras y las necesidades que padecían los jóvenes y lo hice saber al backbone, al equipo, le conté lo que estaba sucediendo y estas necesidades, por más de pronto básicas que sean, realmente hacían el cambio para el desarrollo del programa, como lo era brindarles un café, brindarles una merienda, apoyarlos con el transporte, porque para la mayoría era la dificultad más grande que tenían. Además de eso, yo me encargaba de llamarlos a cada uno. Si de pronto faltaban el día anterior a clase, yo los llamaba y les decía, ¿por qué no fuiste? ¿Qué te pasó? ¿Cómo estás? Cuéntanos, ¿qué necesitas? Y esto los hacía sentir a ellos motivados y escuchados, y era lo que les permitía continuar en el programa. Somos amigos, están muy pendientes de que yo esté aquí. Además de eso, tenemos un grupo de WhatsApp donde enviamos toda información importante de valor sobre oportunidades, posibilidades. Creamos un capital social en Emprende Así, porque los chicos ahora todos son amigos, se encuentran, salen juntos, se apoyan entre ellos, intercambian productos de su emprendimiento. Si de pronto uno vende ropa y la otra vende velas, entonces hacen el intercambio, depende de lo que cueste cada producto. Y además de eso, nosotros implementamos estrategias de motivación, como lo era un acompañamiento muy de cerca para el desarrollo del ser, talleres de motivación, un acompañamiento psicosocial, asesorías especializadas en las falencias que de pronto los jóvenes y que nosotros mismos, que yo y GOYN Barranquilla identificamos de que cada emprendedor tenía para su negocio. Les brindamos esas asesorías, esas especializadas mentorías para cada uno para el desarrollo de su proyecto. El 5 de noviembre graduamos a 59 jóvenes de Barranquilla del programa Emprende Así. Yo fui como ese enlace que los conectó junto con GOYN Barranquilla. Siempre estaba comunicándoles a ellos todas las necesidades y barreras que cada uno de ellos pasaba, y eso los hacía sentir motivados, y pues con eso afirmo de que soy una joven que inspira joven, como lo dice mi camisa. Y no nos vamos a quedar en eso, queremos seguir trabajando. En estos momentos estamos realizando un trabajo junto con México, que tienen una plataforma de emprendimiento para nosotros replicarla también en la ciudad con información de valor para los jóvenes emprendedores. Seremos una de las primeras ciudades que replique esta plataforma, y además de eso estamos realizando una investigación científica con una de las universidades de Barranquilla, que es la Universidad del Norte, para entender a fondo cómo se maneja el emprendimiento juvenil en Barranquilla. Gracias.
Thank you, Melany. I apologize that we're having a little bit of trouble with translation and the moderator and many things. I promise we'll get it together. If I could please have Phindile on the screen, if we could, tech team, just move to the Zoom. Phindile, while they're getting that started, maybe I'll set you up with a question. Hopefully it won't take me 15 minutes. But we'd love to hear, as we're starting to see a bit more concretely what pathways mean, if you could, from an anchor partner perspective, kind of talk us through what it looks like in practice. So GOYN's anchor partner in eThekwini, Harambee, is also known in South Africa as a national pathway manager. Could you maybe give us a little bit of background of Harambee, so for the people in the room who aren't familiar, and then talk us through what it means to be a pathway manager and really how it looks different, or how this perspective of working on pathways and thinking of ecosystem collaborative work differs from a traditional skilling intervention or singular program approach. Pindi, you can get started. We can see you, and we're just going to make you bigger on the screen.
Okay. And can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. How I wish I was there with you. But Zeina, like you said, I'm definitely there in spirit, and I've been streaming since Monday, so I really feel like I'm part of the convening. Thank you for the question, Zeina. But I think let me first give a brief description of who Harambee is as a South African anchor partner to GOYN. So Harambee is a Swahili term that means all pulled together or working together. And it is a concept that emphasizes collective effort, collaboration, and community-driven action. We normally say it's Harambee Youth Employment Accelerator, but you can refer it to Harambee, right? It is a nonprofit organization focused on addressing youth unemployment by connecting young people with work opportunities. Harambee works with various partners, and these include businesses, government entities, and other organizations, mainly to build pathways to employment for young South Africans, particularly those from disadvantaged backgrounds. We aim to bridge a gap between youth and employers by providing support such as training, mentorship, and job placement. So Harambee operates through a collaborative ecosystem approach, working with different stakeholders to provide youth with the skills, resources, and support they need to successfully enter and thrive in their workforce.
En un esfuerzo laboral.
Can I continue?
Yes. Yes, please go ahead, Pindi.
Okay, thank you. So as a national pathway manager, we are responsible.
D'abord,
Sorry, Pindi, give us 1 second.
Okay. So as a national pathway manager, we are responsible for overseeing and managing a youth employment pathway program at a national level, such as the one implemented by GOYN in eThekwini and across South Africa, really. So this role involves us coordinating the efforts of local and national stakeholders, partners, and organizations to create comprehensive, scalable, and sustainable opportunities for the youth. And when I say youth, I mean specifically the youth that are in areas such as, no, apologies about that, youth that come from disadvantaged backgrounds. Yeah, so being a pathway manager means having really a holistic view of the youth employment ecosystem. And instead of focusing solely on one intervention or program, like training or job placement, the pathway manager being Harambee's job is to ensure coordination and integration of multiple pathways that can lead young people towards sustainable employment. This includes managing the overall flows of services, identifying potential partnerships, and connecting young people, with the right opportunities in multiple sectors. And the sectors could be digital economy, green jobs, and et cetera. And our key responsibilities, they include building relationships with local partners, businesses, and government stakeholders. And we oversee youth employment strategies that ensure that alignment of local needs with the national goals. We also monitor progress in measuring the impact of various pathways to improve youth employment outcomes. One would ask, what does the work look like, right? The work of us being a national pathway manager really involves coordination, like I mentioned earlier, planning and implementation of initiatives aimed at creating comprehensive pathways for youth. And this includes identifying sectors with potential job growth and working with businesses, training institutions, and government programs to develop youth-focused pathways. We also form strategic partnerships with private sector companies, NGOs, and government entities to ensure there is a range of opportunities for youth and training, job placements, and entrepreneurship. We also directly connect young people to various services such as skills development, internships, apprenticeship, or job placements in a way that ensures that progressing along the pathway towards stable long-term employment. And lastly,
लंबे समय तक ये चल सके इस
I'm hearing
Go
voices.
ahead,
Can
Pindi.
you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. We continuously track the progress of youth through the employment pathways to assess outcomes like job retention, income generation, skills development, and career advancement. So this work really requires a systematic approach, like you said, Zeina, that ensures youth are not just gaining temporary employment, but are on a progressive pathway that leads to career stability and economic empowerment. And the last question would be, how is this shift in perspective different from a traditional regular skilling intervention? So in traditional skilling interventions, the focus is often narrow, typically just on skills development or training. And these programs may provide young people with new skills, but they don't necessarily connect them to sustainable employment pathways or ensure long-term career growth. Often the impact of such program is limited to whether youth gain specific technical skills, but not how these skills translate into jobs, career development, or even entrepreneurship. So as the pathway manager's perspective, however, represents a shift, towards a comprehensive, integrated approach to addressing youth unemployment. And instead of only providing training or job placements as standalone activities, this approach is really about understanding the local labor, which is very important, the local labor market, and ensuring that training is aligned with the demands of employers in key sectors like digital, green economy, and agriculture. And instead of looking at a one-off intervention, the pathway model ensures youth are supported throughout the journey into the workforce and even beyond into career advancement. And youth are really connected not just to jobs or training, but also to other services like mentorship, opportunities, and we support them for their career advancement. And life skills can also ensure their long-term success. And as a pathway manager, we work to understand each youth's individual needs, tailoring pathways to suit them, whether it's through internships or entrepreneurial support, rather than offering a one-size-fits-all solution. So in essence, the shift is from isolated program to a systematic, interconnected pathway system that gives young people the tools they need for sustainable successes in the workforce or as entrepreneurs. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Phindile. That was such great detail and really kind of rich example that I'd love to build off of now in a little bit of another example from a slightly different perspective. So Christy, we're really excited to have you on the panel to offer. We've heard from a young person in the design of pathways. We've heard from an anchor partner and how this looks in designing pathways from an anchor partner perspective. And now we'd love to hear from a funding partner, and the Hilton Foundation as a critical funder to us and supporter that sees the value of this pathways approach that we've been talking about here. And you've been an early supporter and collaborator in this work. So I'm hoping you could please tell us a little bit about how the Hilton Foundation supports, in particular, the career pathway programming in Mombasa, Kenya. And if you could also talk about what makes the programming impactful and different, similar to what Phindile was highlighting. How is it different than our traditional skilling models as it relates to the culture and the place of Mombasa?
Excellent. Hi, everyone. We feeling energized? We're good? Can you give it up for my youth co-panelists? I mean, tremendous. Melany, you did amazing. I'm really excited first about this panel because just the title alone, Career Pathways for Youth by Youth, and it's really consistent with the theme that we've had and we've heard over and over, nothing for us without us, right? So I'm so happy to join. I'm Christy Cardenas. As Zeina had mentioned, I work with the Hilton Foundation, and I serve on the team that supports our Opportunity Youth Initiative. Our initiative aims to support youth, particularly those hit hardest by socioeconomic inequities. We do that through comprehensive supports of healing, of guidance, of training, so they can enter meaningful careers and livelihoods and then break cycles of poverty within their lives and hopefully their families as well. We're in 4 geographies: Mombasa, Mexico City. I'm realizing I'll speak slower for interpretation. Those are our 2 international sites, and local in the United States, we have the states of Louisiana and California. And if you're in one of those 4 sites, can I get a whoo? Yes. So our work supports 3 pillars, and I'll go quickly because I want to spend most of my time highlighting the work in Mombasa. We support career pathways. So in essence, that's everything they need to be able to enter. No, not yet, sorry. Okay, I'll prompt when to change the slide, thank you. So career pathways, it's generally just everything they need to support their journey so that they can actually enter workforce training programs and stay in workforce training programs, enter jobs and meaningful careers and livelihoods, and stay there, right? So all the supports necessary to get there. And that we all know, as we've heard from our partners already and throughout the whole conference, that takes a lot of work, a lot of guidance, a lot of time. So that's our first pillar. The second is employer engagement. And this was, I think, a brave move from Hilton Foundation, because we can't do this alone. We need private partners at the table. They have a role to play, and really working to see what it is that they need and bridging that relationship within workforce training providers, community-based organizations, and employers to have meaningful conversations on how to support our youth. And the last piece is policy advocacy, of course, youth voice, youth power, and that's our third pillar. So I'm really honored to share about how this work is being implemented in Mombasa through our partnership with the Swahili Pot Hub Foundation and GOYN. So I'll share a little bit about the context of Mombasa, because I feel that every program should be contextualized and solutions are local, right? So a little bit about Mombasa. It's a vibrant coastal area home to approximately 1.5 million people, and about 560 plus are opportunity youth aged 18 to 35. I can't speak of Mombasa without talking about the general Mombasa area, because Mombasa is urban, but we have about 53% of workers commuting from rural counties surrounding Mombasa. So when I mention Mombasa, it's the greater Mombasa area, including the rural counties. Mombasa's socioeconomic landscape presents both challenges and opportunities, right, for young people. It's a major hub for trade, for tourism, it's a coastal area, digital and tech sector, blue economy, and offers really good employment prospects in the industrial sector as well. And however, key challenges are there, and perhaps not so different from the communities you all work in. Such as, lack of comprehensive supports to social services, mentorship, career guidance, transportation. There's a skills mismatch between the workforce and the programs that are offered, right? That some vocational training programs are fragmented. There's inadequate access to finances and capital. There's digital divide, digital inequities, who has access to laptops, computers, internet, and then, of course, gender inequities. Again, women facing most of the gender inequity and the disparities in access. Sorry, I should have said, you can advance to the next slide. I just shared this, but I also want to, are these? Yes, exactly, awesome. So how they do this, how Swahili Pot Hub, which I will refer to as SPH, how they do this is through youth hub networks is one. So SPH partners with grassroots CBOs, community-based organizations across the county. So this really enlarges their reach to hard-to-reach neighborhoods. One thing that I love about this, and I was able to visit 2 youth hub networks last month. I'll give examples. One was Studio Bella Bella, and this studio had a reach of about 700 to 800 OY in their community. But this space, the executive director, she offers space for creatives, young men and women, and as she tells the story, who have often felt left out or they didn't belong. So these are songwriters, artists, poets, painters, photographers, and just offering that safe space for them to to be, honestly. And pairing them up with mentors and case managers who are in the same field or in the same track as entrepreneurs, and supporting their trajectories. I think that was really powerful. And then another youth hub another youth hub organization in a different part of the county focused more on civic participation, allowing, supporting youth get access to documents who don't have IDs, voter registration, just really civic participation. So I think one thing I'll highlight is what we're hearing across all our geographies is youth want, consistently, youth want, one, jobs, meaningful careers, safe spaces to be who they're supposed to be and who they are, and acceptance in that, belonging, as we say, and also social supports. And I think youth hub networks are able to kind of provide that. Next slide, please. So, oh, we temper, it's all good. I've got slides and I'll share it. So the second slide we'll share, it's really just about photos, but it's about mentorship and case management. So Swahili Pot Hub, is that it? Oh, awesome. Centers connection and positive youth development, and I think their process is, and this I'm really proud because they've worked really hard on this process, is one, they have a digital platform now which they just launched this year, and I'm extremely proud that they're able to match mentors with mentees. What they hope it will do in the future is that it'll be a resource and referral platform. It'll be an opportunity for youth hubs to actually talk to each other so they can track youth wherever they are in their journey, and connect youth to jobs. So have those, have the data where there's openings and job openings in certain sectors, and connect them that way. So that's kind of the mentorship and case management process. And then the last pillar, I think, or last piece of work that I want to highlight is their policy advocacy and their youth leadership. So if you were listening to the panel yesterday, I think that, Mohammed Harith Ticha already said it all. It's really about putting youth in places where they're able to share the solutions for them, right? Like that they're able to, in Mombasa specifically, there's a government's youth action plan, but really it's about, youth are studying county budgets. I'm from Los Angeles, which is massive, and I'm not even doing a deep dive on the LA budget, but youth are studying their county's budget to say, this is what's missing, this is how you need to draw down funds for us in our communities, and this is how it needs to look like. And they have a real champion in their governor that's listening to them, and Swahili Pot Hub is kind of creating that program. So one of their big pushes is access to capital, access to loans for livelihood and small businesses, and then also creating, reforming their technical and vocational, their TVET program, their workforce training program. So I think those are the big pieces. I'll leave it to the next slide because I think the most powerful is hearing from youth directly, but the next is hearing their stories. So I invite you to just read these quotes as I again, share my appreciation for the GOYN team and for everybody who's really taking time to share what they do, and for everyone to just learn from each other.
Thank you so much, Christy. We're making it through, and actually I could not have teed up better our next panelist. I could not agree more that hearing from the youth about their involvement and the value of this work is really what's paramount here. So I'm really happy, Shivansh, that you can offer this perspective. Like Mombasa, GOYN Ramgarh has had a few years of experience, not only designing pathways, but also implementing them. We're lucky to have your perspective, especially as a young person, because you've been involved almost from the very beginning. So we heard from Melany earlier about the involvement of young people in the design of pathways, and we'd love now to hear your experience with GOYN Ramgarh of how youth are engaged in the implementation of pathways. And maybe you could take us through one or two of these pathways and describe the role that youth play throughout the implementation.
First of all, thank you for having me in this panel. So if we talk about Ramgarh, we are working on 5 pathways. सो टुडे आप लोगों के सामने मैं 2 पाथवेज के बारे में आप लोगों को शेयर करूँगा. सो हमारा जो पहला पाथवे है वो है एक्सेस टू फॉर्मल एम्प्लॉयमेंट. सो इसमें अगर हम बात करें कि कैसे हम लोगों ने यूथ को कनेक्ट किया, देन फिर हम लोग उस पर बात करेंगे कि कैसे हम लोगों ने यूथ को इम्प्लीमेंटेशन में इंगेज किया. तो अगर कनेक्शन की बात करें तो हम लोग स्टार्टिंग में यूथ के साथ हम लोगों ने मास मोबिलाइजेशन किया था. मास मोबिलाइजेशंस के थ्रू हम लोगों ने यूथ की एस्पिरेशंस को जानने की कोशिश की थी. एस्पिरेशन इन द सेंस कि रामगढ़ स्पेसिफिक यूथ के एस्पिरेशंस क्या क्या हैं. देन फिर हमारे पास जब उनके एस्पिरेशंस निकल कर आए तो फिर हम लोगों ने यूथ का 1-on-1 काउंसलिंग किया और उनकी इसी एस्पिरेशंस को और गहराई से और अच्छे से जानने की कोशिश की. ऑल्सो काउंसलिंग से पहले हम लोग साइकोमेट्रिक टेस्ट्स भी करते थे जिससे इन एस्पिरेशंस के बारे में और डिटेल में हमें पता चला. इसके साथ साथ अगर हम देखें तो रामगढ़ एक रूरल बेल्ट है. तो रूरल बेल्ट होने के वजह से यहाँ पे काफ़ी सारी अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ जो मार्केट में आपका ट्रेंडिंग अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ है या फिर जो भी अभी अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ चल रही हैं उसके बारे में यहाँ के ओवाइस को यूथ को पता नहीं रहता है. सो अगर देखा जाए वो जॉब अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ भी हो सकती है, एजुकेशन रिलेटेड आपके कोर्सेज भी हो सकते हैं, उनकी भी जानकारी इंफॉर्मेशन प्रॉपर तरह से यूथ को नहीं मिल पाती है. सो थ्रू आर करियर गाइडेंस प्रोग्राम, करियर गाइडेंस एंड काउंसलिंग प्रोग्राम, हम लोगों ने यूथ को इन सारे इन्फॉर्मेशन से आपका उनको बताया और उनसे मतलब कौन कौन सी मार्केट में अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ हैं, जॉब अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ हैं, करियर रिलेटेड कोर्सेज हैं, तो उन सारी चीज़ों को उनको बताया और उसमें किस तरह से अवेल कर सकते हैं आप, कौन कौन से कोर्सेज करने के बाद कौन कौन सी नौकरियां आपको मिल सकती हैं. तो इन सारी चीज़ों के बारे में उनको बताया. और पिछले अगर हम 1.5 ईयर्स के पहले की देखें तो हम लोगों ने लगभग 3000 यूथ को थ्रू आर करियर गाइडेंस प्रोग्राम हम लोगों ने उनके जो करियर रिलेटेड चैलेंजेस हैं उसको सॉल्व करने में उनकी मदद की है. इसके साथ साथ अगर हम फिर बात करें कि इसमें हम लोगों ने और भी है कि फॉर्मल एम्प्लॉयमेंट से भी आपका करियर गाइडेंस के थ्रू हम लोगों ने उनको जोड़ा था. इसके बाद अगर हम अपने दूसरे पाथवेज की तरफ जाएं जो कि है प्रमोटिंग मास एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप. सो मास एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप के लिए भी हम लोग जैसे यूथ हमारे यूथ हब्स में आते हैं तो हम लोग उनका काउंसलिंग करते हैं. इसके साथ साथ अगर हम देखें तो काउंसलिंग करना इसलिए भी ज़रूरी हो जाता है क्योंकि बहुत सारे यूथ प्रेशर के वजह से एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप करने के लिए रेडी हो जाते हैं, बिजनेस करने के लिए रेडी हो जाते हैं. वो पीयर प्रेशर भी हो सकता है, फैमिली प्रेशर भी हो सकता है. सो थ्रू आर काउंसलिंग हमें ये समझ में आता है कि हाँ एक्चुअल में यूथ एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप या बिजनेस करना चाह रहा है कि नहीं करना चाह रहा है. इसके साथ साथ अगर हम देखें तो अब बहुत से यूथ ऐसे भी होते हैं जिनको अपना बिजनेस आइडिया नहीं पता होता है कि कौन सा बिजनेस किया जाए, कौन सा एंटरप्राइज किया जाए. सो फॉर दैट हम लोगों ने रामगढ़ स्पेसिफिक एक बिजनेस आइडिया बैंक प्रिपेयर किया है. आप लोगों को दिख भी रहा होगा फोटो में. सो उस आइडिया बैंक में हम लोगों ने अलग अलग तरह के बिजनेसेस को रखा है जो रामगढ़ स्पेसिफिक यूथ के लिए हो सकते हैं, जो कि स्मॉल बिजनेसेस है. उसमें पूरा आपका क्या है कि बिजनेस प्लान से लेके सारा चीज़ है कि मतलब स्टार्टिंग से लेके किस तरह से पूरा सेटअप होगा वो सारा उस आइडिया बैंक में है, स्मॉल बिजनेसेस. तो इससे क्या होता है कि जब कोई यूथ अगर जिसको अपने बिजनेस का कुछ आइडिया नहीं है, कुछ समझ में नहीं आ रहा है क्या किया जाए, तो हम लोग ये बुक उनको देते हैं. देन फिर उससे उनको चूज़ करने के लिए गाइड करते हैं, उनके जो भी एस्पिरेशन है या फिर जो भी वो करना चाहते हैं, जिस फील्ड में वो करना चाह रहे हैं उसके हिसाब से.
De cómo abrir estos negocios les
सो फिर आफ्टर जब आइडिया सिलेक्शन हो जाता है देन फिर एक पार्ट आता है ट्रेनिंग्स का. सो हम लोग है क्या कि हमारे यूथ हब के थ्रू हम लोग यूथ को ट्रेनिंग्स भी प्रोवाइड करते हैं. तो एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप डेवलपमेंट रिलेटेड ट्रेनिंग्स रहती हैं. इसके साथ साथ हम लोगों ने गवर्नमेंट एजेंसीज़ के साथ भी पार्टनरशिप की है जिससे ये है कि यूथ को ट्रेड स्पेसिफिक ट्रेनिंग देने में वो हमें मदद करती है. अब ट्रेड स्पेसिफिक में हम बात करें जैसे अगर हम बिजनेस को देखें तो वो उसमें मैन्युफैक्चरिंग सेक्टर्स हो जाती है, रिटेल सेक्टर हो जाती है, सर्विस सेक्टर्स हो जाती हैं. तो ट्रेड स्पेसिफिक ट्रेनिंग्स देने में ये गवर्नमेंट एजेंसीज हमारी मदद करती हैं तो इन सारी ट्रेनिंग्स को कराने में. अब फिर अगर हम देखें कि एक ओवाई अगर ट्रेंड हो जाता है देन फिर एक सबसे बड़ा जो सपोर्ट जो उनको लगता है कि मिलना चाहिए वो फाइनेंशियल सपोर्ट होता है. तो फाइनेंशियल सपोर्ट उन्हें बहुत अगर देखा जाए तो मिलने में मुश्किल भी होती है. तो इसके लिए हम लोगों ने क्या किया कि अगर जो जिस भी तरह के डॉक्यूमेंटेशन रिलेटेड हम लोग उनको सपोर्ट कर सकते हैं, तो उसमें हम लोग उनको सपोर्ट करते हैं, जिससे बैंक्स के थ्रू, NBFCs के थ्रू उनको इजीली लोन अवेल हो पाए। इसके साथ साथ हम लोगों ने कुछ ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस के साथ भी पार्टनरशिप किया है। फॉर एग्जांपल एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है रंग दे करके। सो दैट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन जो है वो मिनिमम रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट में आपको लोन्स प्रोवाइड करती है, जो कि स्मॉल बिजनेसेस को मतलब ग्रो करने में मदद करती हैं। तो इन सारे ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस के और एक आध ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस है जिनके साथ हम लोगों ने पार्टनरशिप की है, तो जो कि फाइनेंशियली यूथ को जो है सपोर्ट करते हैं लोन्स प्रोवाइड करने में। इसके साथ साथ अब जब एक बिजनेस एक एंटरप्राइज सेटअप हो जाता है, उसके बाद इनिशियल फेजेस में अगर देखा जाए तो यूथ को काफ़ी तरह की चैलेंजेस का सामना करना पड़ता है। तो उन चैलेंजेस को एड्रेस करने के लिए हम लोगों ने क्वालिफाइड मेंटर्स भी अपॉइंट किए हैं, जो कि यूथ को जो इनिशियल फेजेस में जो बिजनेस आपका चलाने में जो भी जिस भी तरह की चैलेंजेस आती हैं, उससे उनको निकलने में, उनको हेल्प करने में मदद करते हैं। सो अगर हम बात करें फिर कि इसको इम्प्लीमेंटेशन में अगर हम लोग बात करें, तो जो भी ये हम लोग काम कर रहे हैं रामगढ़ में, ये हमारे जो भी टीम है हमारी, वो भी काफ़ी यंग है एंड वो भी लोकल बॉडीज़ हैं, वहीं की लोकल कम्युनिटीज़ से आती हैं। तो ये भी है, और हमारे वियाग मेंबर्स भी हमें इन सारी चीज़ों को इम्प्लीमेंट करने में हमारी मदद करते हैं। इसके साथ साथ फिर देखा जाए कि अगर हम लोकल प्रोग्रामिंग में, लोकल कम्युनिटी में इसका इम्पैक्ट देखें, तो ये ना तो सिर्फ आपके यूथ को डेवलपमेंट में मदद कर रहा है, ये पूरी हमारी कम्युनिटी डेवलपमेंट में हमारी मदद कर रही है। क्योंकि अगर देखा जाए कि जो हमारे साथ जो एंटरप्रेन्योर्स जुड़े हुए हैं पिछले 2 सालों से, 3 सालों से, वो अब एक रोल मॉडल की तरह अपनी कम्युनिटी में नज़र आ रहे हैं। सो अगर उनकी कम्युनिटी में भी अगर किसी को बिजनेस करना है, एंटरप्राइज करना है, सो वो उनके पास आते हैं, उनसे हेल्प लेते हैं कि किस तरह से बिजनेस किया जाए, एंड वो उनको सपोर्ट भी करते हैं। सो हम लोग अभी रोल मॉडल्स भी क्रिएट करने में बढ़ रहे हैं। सो यही है, मेरा यही कहना था कि अगर हम यूथ को इम्प्लीमेंटेशन में रख रहे हैं, तो वो ना तो सिर्फ किसी एक यूथ या 10 यूथ को हेल्प कर रहा है, ये एक पूरे कम्युनिटी को हेल्प कर रहा है हमारी। ठीक है, थैंक यू।
Thank you so much, Shivansh. And I know you can see a photo of the cover of the bank here. I understand you might have a copy also if people are interested to see. You'll bring it tomorrow if people are interested. Thank you. I think we're done with the slides, so we could put those away and maybe just bring Phindile back on the screen. I'd love to open a conversation now with the panelists, and I'll maybe start with a question for each of you, and then we might have time for a couple of audience questions as well. Melany, I'll come back to you. We've learned, I think we have a strong understanding of what pathways are. We've seen the design and the implementation, so we're experts now. But we still haven't gotten a personal perspective yet. I would love from your experience if you could share a story of a young person that comes to your mind from your experience in the pilot work that you described, to spark some inspiration with us and with the audience on what this Pathways work can do for the life of a young person.
La mejor manera de inspirarlos a los jóvenes. Ok, gracias. Tenemos muchas historias inspiradoras. Una de ellas es una joven migrante. Ella es migrante de Venezuela. Ella es profesional en su país, pero pues le tocó migrar a Colombia por la falta de oportunidades y todo lo que estaba sucediendo en Venezuela. Nos cuenta que Barranquilla y Colombia la acogió demasiado, y cuando inició en Emprende Así nos decía que pues ella dijo, voy a ir al programa porque sí, para ver qué sucede, qué pasa. No iba como con expectativas de nada, y para el día de hoy está demasiado agradecida con el programa, porque como les contaba anteriormente, les brindamos el acompañamiento psicosocial, y eso le sirvió mucho a ellos para crecer. Además de eso, se formalizó. Ella estaba con su emprendimiento informal y el programa, cuando les aplicó el tema sobre formalización, a los 3 días se fue a la Cámara de Comercio y formalizó su emprendimiento. Además de eso, abrió sus redes sociales porque tampoco tenía ni Facebook ni Instagram para vender, y en el transcurso del programa abrió sus redes sociales. Ya está alcanzando casi los 200 seguidores y es como que todo el tiempo me escribe a mí y le escribe a un compañero que es el mentor de ellos, que nos está acompañando también en todo este proceso, y es como que a él le dice profe y pues a mí Melany. Y es como que, profe, Melany, estoy muy agradecido con ustedes, gracias por todos los consejos, me han ayudado demasiado, todo el tiempo nos está escribiendo, nos dice, nosotros tuvimos el día del informe, se llevó unas tarjeticas y repartió, y a los 2 días la estaban llamando para que les vendiera sus productos a las personas que estaban en el informe. También nos llamó, nos agradeció de que había aumentado sus ventas muchísimo a raíz del programa, porque tenía un desorden en financiamiento. Decía que vendía solo por vender y por subsistir lo del día. Y a raíz del programa, pues ya tomó orden, ya lleva un orden de su emprendimiento, ya guarda sus finanzas, saca las ganancias y lo que conlleva su emprendimiento. Y de esas historias tenemos muchísimas más. Como les decía, la mayoría de ellos en el transcurso del programa se formalizó, abrieron sus redes sociales y mejoraron muchísimo sus finanzas. Otra cosa que quería recalcar es que el nombre de Emprende Así nació de ellos. Los jóvenes fueron quienes escogieron el nombre de Emprende Así. Y además de eso, del programa que nosotros ya existía y lo adaptamos, normalmente tiene una deserción del 25%, y en nuestro piloto de Emprende Así, la deserción en el primer grupo fue del 10% y en el segundo grupo bajó al 5%. Todo esto fue pues la motivación que les damos. Yo todo el tiempo estaba pendiente de ellos junto con el instructor, llamándolos, invitándolos, enviándoles mensajes por WhatsApp. El background también nos acompañaba a ciertas actividades. Nosotros los invitábamos a eventos de exposición y comercialización de sus productos, y todo esto los motivaba a ellos a continuar en el programa, y no se quieren ir de GOYN, ya ellos hacen parte de la comunidad de GOYN Barranquilla.
Thank you so much, Melany. That was really inspiring. Phindile, I think we're all sold now. Everyone here, we want to be moving towards Pathways work. So give us some words of wisdom as an anchor partner for partners in the room that might be thinking about this and starting to design pathways of their own. What are some lessons that you can offer from the Harambee experience in the transition so far into this pathways work? How can you, or what are some lessons that you can leave us with as we leave the room and want to move forward in designing pathways ourselves?
Thank you for the question, Zeina. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Can you hear me?
¿Eso es mucho?
Give
Muchas
us 1
gracias.
minute.
Pueden escuchar.
All right, Phindile, let's try
Can you hear
again.
me? I can hear the translator.
Okay, Phindile?
Can
All
you
right,
hear me now?
you're on. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the question, Zeina. I have 5 lessons to share with organizations. I can hear myself.
Sounded like a remix. All right, let's try again.
Can you hear
Phindile.
me?
Yes. You have 5 lessons. We're ready for them.
Am I audible?
Yes. Yes, you are.
Okay, thanks. Like I said, I have 5 lessons to share with organizations, especially the ones transitioning from program-specific interventions to a collaborative approach to defining pathways. I really encourage organizations to shift their mindset from working alone,
Maintenant,
rather actively building and engaging partnerships.
je vais
I can hear the translation.
euh,
1 second, Phindile. 1 second, Phindile.
Okay,
1 second, Phindile.
okay,
1 second, Phindile.
okay.
Yeah, maybe while we sort this audio, Phindile, we're gonna move to the next question and then we'll come back to you because we still need those 5 lessons. I don't know if you can hear me because it looks like we're on mute. Phindile,
Can you hear me?
we're gonna sort out this audio, and while we do, we might just shift. I'm gonna ask Christy a question to buy us some time.
Okay.
It's sorted. All right, never mind.
All right.
Phindile, back to you and the 5 lessons.
Okay. Yeah, I was saying I really encourage organizations to shift their mindset from working alone to actively building and engaging partnerships. Reason being that these networks will help provide a holistic support system for youth and create synergy across different initiatives. Again, it is of an importance for organizations to think beyond the immediate outcome of placing youth in jobs. Instead, they could work to create pathways that are holistic and sustained, ensuring youth continue to develop skills and have opportunities for advancement throughout their career. I would also encourage them to set shared goals and align data systems across partners to track youth progress, improve program delivery, and demonstrate impact in a consistent way. And they need to ensure that youth are seen as active participants, like we heard earlier, not just recipients in the process of creating the pathways. Their input is invaluable in designing effective solutions that meet their real world needs. And lastly, I would really encourage organizations to build flexibility into their programs. This could mean adjusting the focus of pathways or rather reallocating resources or pivoting to new sectors based on market trends and youth feedback. So in a nutshell, I cannot emphasize this enough, but there's just power in collaboration. Reason being that the more we collaborate, then it simply means we can offer different types of interventions to our youth, unlike having to work alone as an organization. And another thing is, the more we come together, the more we can hear different youth voices on what is it that they feel that needs to be implemented. So yeah, thank you.
Thanks so much, Phindile. I think we're inspired now by the changes that Pathways can make.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, yes, we did. Thank you, Phindile. And I think we're bought in now. We know the changes that can happen in youth lives with this Pathways work. We know what it takes for organizations to shift there, and we're ready to do it like Harambee. Now we need to galvanize the donors, bring the money in. Christy, what advice would you give to donors? How can we start talking to them and encouraging them to really take this step like Hilton did to shift towards funding these types of pathway interventions rather than the one-off activities? What advice do you have?
Thank you. I was really, really motivated by Pindi's answer, by the way. I love that. Thank you for sharing. From the Hilton Foundation's experience, investing in pathways or pathways-focused approaches really yields a more, just in our experience, a more sustainable and transformative outcome compared to one-off interventions. As you've already heard, pathways are, I can go on and on, they're holistic. They address multiple barriers that young individuals may face. They create systems of support. They help young people transition from education or from whatever hardship to education to meaningful employment. focuses on long-term impact. I mean, I don't know if these are notes you want to take, but when you're selling programs to donors, this is why you need to invest in these programs, right? It's long-term. You foster collaboration just by the model alone. You center youth in the solutions, and then again, bringing in partners, public-private partners, which I know GOYN really champions through their model of private-public partnerships. This really means, as a funder, maximizing the value of your investment by contributing to systemic changes rather than temporary fixes. And I can't emphasize that enough, because whatever your broader business goal is, if it's through your CSR, oh, awesome. If it's through your philanthropic goals, through your foundation, supporting pathways does not just support individuals, young individuals, but it strengthens local communities, and in the long run strengthens the local economy. So it will create a ripple effect, and overall really just impact your goals holistically. So may I share another encouragement as well? I was really just moved by the lessons of Harambee, that if you are a implementing partner, that you're implementing youth workforce programs, I think one thing I can also share is that center meaningful connections. Meaningful connections with youth, with young people in your program, center meaningful connections with your team, go deep, and then center meaningful connections with your community, beyond just the nonprofit community, right? Government, public, and other private partners. Because I think Grace Lee Boggs, who's a social activist, had said that movements are built not out of critical mass, but through critical connections. And you really can't go wrong if you center that. So thank you all for all the work that you're doing.
Thank you, Christy. Thank you. And you know, riding this wave of connections, it makes me think, Shivansh, of the examples you shared, mentorship and the connections throughout the activities within the pathways seem really critical in the case of Ramgarh. And I would love to hear from you, from your perspective or from your experience, if you could share an example of a young leader or a mentor from Ramgarh that comes to mind that you think really embodies this ability to make connections and has supported other young people going through their journey in Ramgarh.
सो अगर रोल मॉडल्स की बात की जाए तो हमारे कम्युनिटी में एक ओवाई का ही एग्जांपल लेना चाहूँगा. सो वो एक एंटरप्रेन्योर है अभी, लेकिन अगर देखा जाए तो पिछले 2 साल पहले तो उनका पूरा फैमिली बिजनेस आपका फार्मिंग रिलेटेड था, और यही आपके 1 साल पहले उसके पिताजी का डेथ हो गई, एक्सपायर कर गए वो. एंड देन जो भी उसके घर का जितना भी आपका दारो मदार था वो सारा उसी यूथ के पास आ गया. सो थ्रू आवर मोबिलाइजेशन इवेंट्स हम लोगों को उसके बारे में जानने को मिला, हमारी टीम को उसके बारे में जानने को मिला. देन फिर हम लोग उसके इंटरेस्ट को हम लोगों ने जानने की कोशिश की थ्रू काउंसलिंग्स. तो ये निकल के आया कि वो बिज़नेस करना चाहता है, एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप करना चाह रहा है, और उसका मोबाइल रिपेयरिंग के फील्ड में उसको जाने का इंटरेस्ट था. सो हम लोगों ने भी अलग अलग तरह के जो ट्रेनिंग्स थे जिसके बारे में मैंने आपको इससे पहले बताया, तो उन ट्रेनिंग्स के थ्रू उसको हेल्प किया और एक मोबाइल रिपेयरिंग की ट्रेनिंग में उसको इनरोल करवाया, और उसने उसे अवेल भी किया. उसके बाद उसे फाइनेंशियल सपोर्ट्स भी दिलाए. फाइनेंशियल सपोर्ट जैसे मैंने आपको इससे पहले बताया था कि चैलेंजेस आते हैं फाइनेंशियल सपोर्ट्स में, तो उसके साथ भी ये चैलेंज आया क्योंकि वो एकदम पहला लोन लेने जा रहा था, तो उसको काफ़ी सारे तरह के चैलेंजेस आ रहे थे. सो थ्रू आवर पार्टनर्स रंगदे हम लोगों ने उसको एक लोन दिलवाया. शॉर्ट लोन था 50,000 का, तो थ्रू टू सेटअप हिज बिजनेस. तो उसी लोन से उसने अपना बिजनेस सेटअप किया, और इनिशियल फेजेस में काफ़ी तरह के चैलेंजेस आए थे. सो हम लोगों ने मेंटरशिप का भी सपोर्ट दिया उसे, और अभी अगर देखा जाए तो आज के डेट में वो अपने ही शॉप में, अपने एंटरप्राइज में 2 यूथ को एम्प्लॉय करके रखा हुआ है, और इसके साथ साथ उसके इनकम में भी इन्हांसमेंट हुआ है, और अपने घर को भी अब वो चला रहा है। तो वो जो मैंने बात किया था कि उसके पिताजी आपके एक्सपायर हो गए थे, तो उसके बाद अब उसने अपने घर को संभाल लिया है और वो अपने घर को अभी चला रहा है। तो और इसके बाद अभी फिर उसने जो जो हमारे पार्टनर से लोन लिए थे वो भी उसने क्लियर कर दिया है, और लोन्स के लिए वो डिमांड कर रहा है, अपने शॉप को और बढ़ाना चाह रहा है। वो एक अपने कम्युनिटी में भी एक रोल मॉडल की तरह निकल के आ रहा है। इसके साथ साथ उसने, जैसे मैंने बताया कि और भी लोगों को एम्प्लॉय भी किया है। तो इसी तरह के रोल मॉडल्स हम लोग अपनी कम्युनिटी में और बनाने के लिए अग्रसर हैं, आगे भी हम लोग बनाएंगे और बना भी रहे हैं। तो थैंक्स टू GOYN जो हम लोगों को सपोर्ट कर रहा है इन रोल मॉडल्स को क्रिएट करने के लिए रामगढ़ में। थैंक यू।
Thank you so much, Shivansh, and thank you to all the panelists. We do have a few minutes for a few questions from the audience on anything in terms of design of pathways, in terms of implementation of pathways, and particularly how to engage youth in that work.
आपने हिंदी में बोला इसलिए मैं भी आपको हिंदी में सवाल पूछ रहा हूँ। अगर और भी लोग सवाल का जवाब दे तो काफ़ी अच्छा रहेगा। कि आपने अभी बोला ना कि यूथ को मोबाइल रिपेयरिंग में काफ़ी ज़्यादा इंटरेस्ट था, तो जनरल सिनेरियो में हम क्या देख रहे हैं ना, यहाँ सिर्फ पुणे में नहीं बाकी की जगहों पे भी हम स्किलिंग प्रोवाइड कर रहे हैं, वोकेशनल कोर्सेज प्रोवाइड कर रहे हैं। मोबाइल रिपेयरिंग से क्या हो सकता है, उसका अर्निंग्स बढ़ सकता है, लेकिन हमें कोई सस्टेनेबल जनरेशनल चेंज चाहिए होगा। तो हम कुछ ऐसा कर रहे हैं क्या कि मोबाइल रिपेयरिंग से बढ़कर अगर उसको मोबाइल डिज़ाइन, क्योंकि ये सेक्टर काफ़ी बड़ा है स्मार्टफोन इंडस्ट्री का या फिर डिजिटल डिवाइसेस का, तो रिपेयरिंग इज़ द वन पार्ट ओनली। सो जैसे कि हम देख रहे हैं कि अगर हम मैन्युफैक्चरिंग का सिनेरियो देख रहे हैं तो कितनी सारी कंपनीज है इंडिया में जो मोबाइल मैन्युफैक्चर कर रही है खुद की। अगर हम मार्केट कैप देखेंगे तो चाइनीज़ मोबाइल ब्रांड्स हो गए या फिर अदर ब्रांड्स देखेंगे तो उनका कैप काफ़ी ज़्यादा है, बड़ा है। तो हम देखेंगे कि पुराने फ़ोन से जो माइक्रोमैक्स था, लावा था, वो कहीं पे भी नहीं है। तो मोबाइल रिपेयरिंग से बढ़कर अगर कुछ करना है तो कैसे कर सकते हैं? इसके लिए आप कुछ कर रहे हो क्या? क्योंकि ये मैंने सिर्फ एग्जांपल दे रहा हूँ मोबाइल रिपेयरिंग का, बाकी की भी चीज़ें हैं। जैसे कि हम बोल रहे हैं कि अगर किसी को इंटरेस्ट था 4 व्हील रिपेयरिंग में, तो रिपेयरिंग ही क्यों करना है? अगर हम जर्मनी का एग्जांपल लेंगे, इटली का एग्जांपल लेंगे, तो उनके पास जो ब्रांड्स है 100-150-200 साल पुराने, तो ज़रूरी नहीं कि ब्रांड पुराना हो, नया ब्रांड भी हम बना सकते हैं। तो रिपेयरिंग से ज़्यादा है, फिर उससे ज़्यादा हम क्या कर सकते हैं जो खुद हम यहाँ पे अपने अपने कम्युनिटी में कुछ नया ब्रांड्स बनाएं, कुछ खुद का बनाएं? इसके लिए हम कुछ कर रहे हैं क्या?
Thank you so much for the question. Pindi, can you hear me? Because I might pass to you for this question. And I'm not sure if you were able to hear the translation too. I can summarize really briefly. I think it would be really great to hear about the, how do we group together various different types of interventions? So it's not just one standalone vocational skilling, but it's actually a group of different interventions to really generate impact in the individual's journey. Did you get that, Pindi? We can't hear you. Maybe to one of the other panelists. Melany, if you're following, it would be great to hear in terms of the design of the entrepreneurship pathway that you described earlier. How do we group more than one activity together? And if you could talk through how the training alone isn't enough, and what a pathway actually involves is multiple activities. No translation.
Bueno, como para ampliar esto, para que llegue a muchísimos jóvenes, desde GOYN Barranquilla, los participantes del JAC, la mayoría son líderes en sus comunidades. Cada uno tiene un colectivo, no todos, porque hay líderes innatos. Entonces, estos como que nos permite acercarnos por medio de cada uno de los participantes del grupo asesor para llegar a muchísimos más jóvenes. Además de esto, nosotros en GOYN Barranquilla estamos realizando un proyecto de conexiones que es el ir a los territorios, a los barrios, quizás estos de estratos mucho más bajos, para escuchar a los jóvenes, entender cuáles son las barreras, porque claramente estamos en una misma ciudad, pero vivimos dificultades totalmente diferentes. Entonces, hacemos esto, visitamos los territorios, los escuchamos, entendemos sus falencias. Además de eso, les llevamos información sobre acceso a la educación, acceso a la empleabilidad formal y de formación para el empleo y formación para emprendimiento. Entonces, por medio de el proyecto de conexiones que visitamos a los barrios, hacemos llegar a muchísimos más jóvenes. También ayudándonos por medio de sea un líder de la comunidad joven o de la Junta de Acción Comunal del barrio. Esto nos permite pues acercarnos a ellos. Además, como lo había comentado ya antes, tenemos un grupo de WhatsApp que es una comunidad. Entonces la divulgamos por todas las redes sociales y por nuestros amigos jóvenes para que lo repliquen con los demás chicos y todos se enteren de lo que está sucediendo con GOYN y el trabajo que estamos realizando.
Thank you so much, Melany. So I heard so many different types of activities there. So it's not just skilling by itself. You also described reaching out to the private sector. You described career counseling. You described using technology to facilitate peer-to-peer mentorship. So all of these together is what pushes the youth forward. So I hope that helps to answer the question. I don't know if we have Phindile. If not, Christy, did you want to? Phindile, anything to add?
Question?
I think we can hear you.
May you please repeat the question?
Yeah, well, why don't I go to Christy for it, and then we'll take another question from the audience.
Okay.
Oh, Phindile, just to, if I understood the question correctly, and if you have answer, feel free, but I think it's how to support.
Oh, sorry. Oh, go ahead. I was gonna say, why don't you, did you have something to answer? Oh, okay. Why don't we pull out another question from the audience, because I know we're short on time. Oh, you do have an answer.
I misunderstood, I thought I'd repeat the question. But it was how to upskill, right? Is that how I'm understanding? Like, how to support young people, not just in one, but how to upskill so that they can move into broader, you mentioned mobile repair, but I'm assuming across industries, right? So as an example of how we're supporting, how philanthropic funds are supporting partnerships, government, private, public partnership in Mombasa, we just, we just launched an Economic Development Investment Council, and that's something that didn't quite exist. And what we're hoping for this is, through our partnership with the county government, they're able to hire people who can actually bring in associations, business associations, in whatever industry or sector, and that, I think this is common, but you know, in some training programs, whether they're publicly funded, is that, you know, the materials are outdated, the tools, the curriculum is outdated, and so I think just having that someone to kind of bridge, again, that conversation of how we can bring in funds so that the curriculum is up to date with what employers are actually looking for, whether it's in the job skills and also with the right equipment, so that that pathway is really like consistent. And sometimes county government just really needs support in just kickstarting that, either an office or an advisory council or staffing to kind of make that connection happen. So that's an example of how we're kind of continuing in the upskilling and just providing that support to both areas.
Thank you, Christy. And we are actually at time, just as my thing broke, we have witnessed tech challenges, translation challenges, moderator challenges, but we've also had a really incredible panel. We've learned a lot about the design, the implementation of pathways, and really at the heart of it, how to bring youth in and really have them in the driver's seat for youth impact. So I want to thank the panelists. I want to thank the audience for your patience with me, with the tech. I will remember this forever. I hope nobody else does, except for the content that we've talked about. Thank you so much to everybody.